All right, let me tell a story. It's story time with Owen. And while we listen to aforementioned story, we're going to play some Let's Go Pikachu. It should just be in the background. Won't bother you too much. When I was a Jehovah's Witness, I was exiting the religion. I had a girlfriend at school, which was forbidden. You're not supposed to have a girlfriend, certainly not one at school. However, I did find the one other person who identified as a Jehovah's Witness in the entire school. She was from a congregation that was like outside of my district even. I was on the edge of a district, so we were just in two different cities, two different districts. It turns out that her parents were very, very fervent Jehovah's Witnesses for a long time, but she was not at all. I don't know that she ever went to a meeting, maybe a couple times. I think her dad I think her grandfather still went to meetings maybe, but she was not involved in the religion basically at all. So I start dating her, and being a Jehovah's Witness, that meant that like nothing happened. You know, we didn't do anything questionable, really. That was forbidden in her mind. I came to find later that she was only using me to have a date for homecoming and prom. That was why she decided to date me in the first place. And she picked a Jehovah's Witness because she knew that I wasn't going to push for more. I wasn't going to push to, do stuff with her or whatever. It was really messed up how all that went down, and it was just sad. Anyway, when she graduated from high school, she went to Morgantown to college there, which is like 3 hours from where I lived. And I was desperate to find a way to make it work with her, even 3 hours away, because I loved her, I loved her so much. I've been with her for at least a year, I think. And it was just, she's my first girlfriend. It was really important to me. And that's when I came to realize she didn't care about me at all. She was just using me. And I just spiraled hard. I went downhill. That was it for me. I worked at Burger King. And I knew some people that liked to party and stuff, drink and all that. And I was like, you know what? Why am I even bothering? What's the point here? There's no point in even trying to maintain my Jehovah's Witness hood. I did kiss the girl and stuff. I did break some rules, and kissing, holding hands, and being alone in a room with her and things like that. That was against the rules. And I could have been disfellowshipped just for that, just for being in a room with her alone. In fact, I stayed the night at her house one time because my dad and I got in a conflict. Anyway, Jehovah's Witnesses would have disfellowshipped me for that. So I was like, why am I even trying? So I went to the house of some people that I worked with at Burger King, and there was alcohol, and there was, there was smoking. They were smoking cigarettes. They had weed and stuff. I was like, you know what? Why? I'm just going to try. I'm just going to do it. So I started smoking a cigarette. I smoked my first cigarette there. And I drank my first alcohol. I was, I think, 17 maybe? 16, 17, 18, somewhere in that vicinity. No, I wasn't 18 yet. I was 16 or 17. And I just given up on life. I was done because I lost this person that I really cared about, And I got, I found another person who I decided to get with, and I was like, again, I'm not even trying, so I'm just gonna do whatever I want. So I started I got with her, and we were doing stuff, doing things that were not appropriate for a young Jehovah's Witness man and a non-Jehovah's Witness woman to do. We were doing those things. I ended up having a kid with her eventually. Well, through all of this, there was another Jehovah's Witness at my high school who saw what was happening. Avery was his name. First names only. His family was very influential in the congregation. They were the ones that they owned a company, and they employed half the congregation and all kinds of other stuff. Well, Avery was reporting back to the elders everything that he saw me doing, holding hands with this girl or talking to these people or doing this thing or whatever. I smelled like cigarette smoke this day, blah, blah, blah. Well, the elders approached me and started asking questions like, why did you smell like cigarette smoke, or why were you with this person alone and stuff? And I was like, I'm not even going to try anymore. I felt so guilty I was like, forget it. I'm just going to tell him what happened. So I said, I have been, I gave him a list. What was it? I don't remember exactly. I said, I've been smoking cigarettes, doing drugs, drinking, and having premarital sex. That's what I said to him. Because I just want to lay it all out. Like, I'm done, you know? Quick note before we continue, I want to let you know I just wrote a book, and it's in pre-order status at this immediate moment. If you want to check it out, owenmorgan.com/book. It's a book about my experiences within Jehovah's Witnesses. I go through their doctrine and everything. It's completely understandable if you know nothing about Jehovah's Witnesses. And if you're a Christian, it's a good reference to use for why Jehovah's Witnesses are wrong about their interpretation of the Bible. The last chapter of the book is 100 questions that I have for the governing body. I'm selling the last chapter separately as its own separate guide if you guys want to get that too. So check it out, owenmorgan.com/book. I'd appreciate that. My life was nosediving because I lost this girl. She was on her way to college and she wanted nothing to do with me anymore. She was using me the entire time and it was just terrible. So the elders set up a judicial committee and stupidly I cooperated with it, just as I stupidly told them what I had been up to. When I said doing drugs, what I meant was I smoked cigarettes and I smoked weed and I drank. Anyway, they disfellowshipped me, and this girl on her way out of town, the one that I really cared about, it was my birthday. She stopped there. Well, it was leading up to my birthday, not quite there. She stopped there at Burger King to give me a birthday gift. I hadn't seen her in like a month, and I had moved on without her like long before. And she, I guess, decided that she wanted to try to make it work. I don't know. After a month of not talking to me. And she gave me like this little guitar pick necklace that you can pull the guitar pick out because I played guitar a lot. She gave me like, music magazines and stuff. And anyway, I said, I'm getting disfellowshipped. And she said, why? And I said exactly what I said to the elders: smoking, drinking, drugs, and premarital sex. And she said, premarital sex with me? And I said, no. And then she walked out, sat in her car for like 10 minutes while I walked outside and smoked a cigarette, staring at her car. She drove off and I never saw her again. And that's when I got disfellowshipped. So I've always said I got disfellowshipped for smoking a cigarette. Well, it's a little more complicated than that, obviously. I did a lot, and I was caught by a spy, a Jehovah's Witness spy in my congregation who was trying to fuck with my life, basically. Years down the line, let's see, it must have been 5 or 6 years ago now. I already had my I already had my YouTube channel. Avery contacts me, says, hey, I left the religion. And I saw your channel, and I think it's awesome. I was like, oh, no way. That's great. Fantastic. Dude f***ed me over 6 ways from Sunday. Why did I answer his phone call? Heap fiery coals upon their head? I don't know. I have no clue why I answered his phone call, but I did. So he asked to meet up with me and get something to eat. So on my lunch break at work, I worked at a software company. I went down to this nearby place and got lunch with him and hung out. And he's like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry about all that stuff before. I shouldn't have done all that. I was like, it was a long time ago. Don't sweat it. In retrospect, it was a long time ago. But, if he hadn't done all of that, I probably still would have been caught. I probably still would have been disfellowshipped. But him doing that showed me how he felt about me. He did not like me, and he didn't care what happened to me. He wanted my life to take a nosedive, and he did what he could to make that take place. So that should tell you something about who this kid was, I don't know. People change. Maybe he's different now, but I don't feel any strong drive to, forgive him for any of that shit. Anyway, yeah, I probably would have been disfellowshipped anyway. Like I said, I wasn't going to meetings anymore, and the elders suspected something was going on. So yeah, that's the story. That's how I got disfellowship. That's the full story. I've never told the whole thing before, beginning to end. I wasn't disfellowshipped on my 18th birthday, but I think I was kicked out on my 18th birthday, and there was a whole judicial committee around that time. I don't remember exactly when, and there was the announcement around that time. I don't remember when it all happened, but exactly. But basically, I was disfellowshipped on my 18th birthday. I was kicked out by my mom around that time and lived in, you remember that girl I was telling you, that floozy, if you will? Just some chick I was hanging out with. Yeah, I married her and had a kid with her and lived in her bedroom for 3 weeks when her grandparents didn't know. And then I got divorced from her later. Anyway, she's cool. She's really cool. I probably shouldn't call her a floozy because it wasn't like that. But, yep, that's his story. If you ever wondered, he did you a favor in the worst way. Yeah, like I said, I probably would have been disfellowshipped anyway, almost certainly, eventually. Elders were on to me. They were following me around already, I think. They just got additional confirmation. 2-witness rule. They need 2 witnesses. So he acted as a witness to the fact that I walked into a room with this girl alone. That's all they needed. If they could catch me walking into a room alone, so much better. Not the floozy. The floozy. Yes, the floozy. I married the floozy. Sounds like he's happy you're making videos about JWs and genuinely felt bad about what he did. Seems like he grew up and changed to me. Yeah, that's what it seems like to me too. I agree. He really f***ed me over though, man. How do you get over something like that? How do you get over being f***ed over to that degree? I mean, I'm good now. Obviously, my life is completely different than it was back then. But he was at least partially responsible for my life nosediving into the ground hard. Honestly, I would say that my ex-girlfriend was more responsible than he was because she was so clearly using me for prom and homecoming pictures and stuff. She just wanted to be dating somebody. I don't want to talk too much about her. I'm not even going to say her name. I'm not going to get into it. I doubt she even watches this channel, even if, I think she's a Jehovah's Witness. She lost her sister. Her sister overdosed on heroin, years after Lindsay died of an overdose. And I knew Lindsay, and it was really sad. And I looked at my ex's Facebook page after that event took place and saw her talking about seeing her again in heaven and stuff. And I was like, seeing her in heaven? What? In no circumstance should you believe that you're going to see her in heaven. Neither of them were anointed. At best, maybe see them in paradise, but it just made no sense for her to be saying that. Anyway, the bottom line here is that I blame that girl more than anything or anybody for the nosedive. She was not actually, she had a condition that made it impossible for her to enjoy or really even be involved with any kind of sexual relationship. Again, I'm not even going to get into the details of it, but it was like a medical, physical condition that where the organs on one half of her body were missing, left kidney and the uterus and the spleen and a whole bunch of other things just missing on the left side, bizarrely. So the point is that she never intended to be in any kind of serious long-term relationship with me at all. She was only ever using me for pictures for homecoming and prom. That's it. And yeah, that hurts. So, I mean, not anymore. I don't give a shit. It hurt back then. But yeah. That's the story. That is how I got disfellowshipped and why. Do they allow polygamy? Absolutely not. No. What's going on with JWs at the moment? Seems like they're trying to become more mainstream. Isn't this dangerous? Will more people join? Do you think they'll remove the shunning? No. They're not going to remove shunning, in my opinion. I don't believe so. They fight it hard. They are doing everything they can to... And it's not even like they're fighting giving up shunning. You know what they're doing? They're fighting bending to the will of society. Like the two witness rule, for example, this rule that says there have to be two witnesses to an event or two victims before it can be considered real, before it can be believed. That is an absolutely terrible rule. Why the hell does that rule exist, right? That's awful. Don't report it to the police. Send it to, or make sure you have two witnesses to testify to it. What? They've spent so much money on lawsuits over the past, I don't know how long, 50 years, we'll say 50 years. So much money on lawsuits over that time frame. And they haven't changed the two witness rule. Why? You could end the lawsuits now and change the two witness rule. No, they refuse to. Why? Because they want to have it their way. Isn't that like Burger King's slogan? They want to be like Burger King, have it their way. They're getting in a lot of trouble right now with Norway for refusing to stop shunning people. And they're even denying that they do shun. They're not changing their shunning rule. I don't believe that they will for a second. We'll see.